Hold on. All right, go ahead. We're going to talk about our buddy Themistocles.
Source 2 presentation. I used Pericles. That's how you say it. Oh no, Plutarch. So Plutarch wrote a source on Themistocles around 75 AD, but Themistocles was actually back in 514 BC. So he's writing this as a historian, looking at the sources and critiquing other accounts about Themistocles' life. So the source that I used was called Themistocles' early life, which he put on the.
Yes.
I read through that, and then I just kind of like summarized what Plutarch said about Themistocles.
Not working? Hit the button. Okay.
So, I don't know if that's actually what he looked like, but the drawing I found of him on Wikipedia. So I think it's probably right, but
That would be right.
yeah. He was an Athenian soldier and statesman, but he is memorable to us because he rose to a place of leadership in Athens, but he did not have any royal bloodline. He apparently was just like a middle class, average family, and he rose to. He was a really good fighter, and he should not have been a free man, from what Plutarch said. Not much is known about his early life. It's really debatable. This is a quote from Plutarch about Themistocles' mother. It says, "I am not of the noble Grecian race. I'm poor Abratonian, and born in Thrace. Let the Greek women scorn me if they please. I was the mother of Themistocles."
Well, that kind of rhymes.
Yeah, which doesn't happen very often because it's Greek. But Plutarch was critical of Themistocles' mother, claiming she was actually from Caricia and her real name was Euterpe. That's how you say it. Anyway, so she lied. Something like that. Probably lying about her where she was from.
We could get somebody to like drop a beat. I'm not of the noble Grecian race.
Yeah. Like Schoolhouse of Rock, only like ancient Greece style.
I think that's definitely be East Coast.
So his story is valuable to us because it shows us how he climbed out of a social inequality based on bloodline. So he was powerful and he had a lot of say in Athens. But from the sources, they show us that he should not have been based on his family status. Themistocles was very ambitious. He really, really wanted to be a leader. Plutarch writes about him, "It is confessed by all that from his youth he was a vehement and impetuous nature, of quick apprehension and a strong and aspiring bent for action and great affairs." So he just really, really had a lot of ambition. It was in his nature to just push harder and take charge. Plutarch also said, "It is evident that his mind was early," I cannot read very well, imbued
with the keenest interest in public affairs and the most passionate ambition for distinction. So he wanted to be noticed, and he had a passion for politics, which was very needed in the Athenian environment, which was very democratic. He was forward-thinking, and he realized that the Battle of Marathon was just the beginning of a great conflict. So the next part has to do with the silver mines. They were getting silver, and they were distributing it amongst the people, I believe. But Themistocles knew they were facing a really great threat. So
Where did this picture come from?
Wikipedia.
So what did you type in to get it? Silver mines?
The silver mines at
Laurium?
yeah.
That picture came up.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a picture of the mine.
Looks like a smelting process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then you can see where they, right here, where they, is that a pointer on it?
Well, yeah, see, make sure the little green, it's a little slide it on the side. Make sure the green thing.
Oh, it's on. That's on.
Okay. Try that. There you go.
Probably right there, probably.
Yeah. Then it can kind of flow up into that
Flow
channel.
out here, and then just stream it out.
It's interesting.
So Themistocles is like, we got to build boats because the Persians are really going to come against us. So they use the silver from this mine. Instead of distributing it out to the people,
they use it to build boats. Plutarch noted, the Athenians, being accustomed to divide amongst themselves the revenue proceeding from the silver mines at Laurium, he was the only man that durst propose to the people that this distribution should cease, and that with the money ships should be built to make war against the Aegean and Aeginetans. Yeah, so he helped build the Greek fleet.
that's a statue of Themistocles.
I like the power line behind it.
Yeah. It's kind of low hanging.
Don't touch it.
I don't think the trees on fire. So he was a really good commander. He took the necessary steps to keep the Persians from corrupting Greek society. Because they also not only attacked Greece, but they would send in people to influence the economy of the Greeks, trying to disrupt trade, and so forth. He tried to unite the Greeks to fight against the Persians, so he was an advocate for Greek unity. And I believe what Plutarch wrote. He put an end to all the civil wars of Greece, composed their differences, and persuaded them to lay aside all enmity during the war with the Persians. And in this great work, Chelcias and Arcadia was
Chilius the
Arcadian, yeah, thank you. Was, it is said, of great assistance to him. Do you know who that guy was? I don't.
Chelcias the Arcadian?
Yeah.
No, I think just his assistant.
Oh.
You know, it's like people don't know the assistants.
Yeah.
It's like the librarians. They don't even get a billing. It's just a whole group. They should have their names there.
Sure. The downfall of Themistocles. Well, I interpreted it as the reason for his great gain in social standing was also the reason why he fell. He was very ambitious, but when he lost the support of the people, he just went down from there. So he was ostracized from Greece between 476 to 471. He retired at Argos. The Spartans further accused him of treasonable intrigues with the Persians, and he fled to Caira. Thence to so he left Admeus, king of the
The Molossions.
Molossions, and finally to Asia Minor. He lost most of his property in the process, but his friends did try to save as much as they could. And interestingly enough, the Persians received him. So maybe he did do treasonable things with the Persians, if they received him so well. Well, I don't know. Okay, I got a few questions to see if you are paying attention.
Okay, that's good. I know you should ask.
How did Themistocles start his life? Anybody?
With parents who were not great, second-class citizen.
How did he raise to the top of the social order? Yeah, well, he became a commander, but how did he get there? Okay.
Politician.
Yeah, politician. I attributed it to his ambitious attitude too. Because he was,
Power hungry,
power hungry.
like a Power Ranger.
Yeah. Why was he such a good leader? In the politics, he, saw the big picture. He had a, I can't remember if Plutarch mentioned this, but he had an ability to think forward, envision the future.
Yeah, the plan. We need to build these ships.
Yeah, he had a plan.
Ahead.
So he could prepare the present for what was going to happen in the future, and he could lead it. And for what reason did he lose his position in the public? He lost the support of the people. He was too boastful. Yeah, so that's it.
All right, questions? Concerns? Snide comments? No, we don't want any of those. Ostracism in Athens. No, Athens.
I chose ostracism in Athens. It was a practice that took place. It was that practice that took.
What was that first picture? What was that?
The
They're
ostracism
being
of.
ostracized? Oh, I see. She is being ostracized by the. Okay, never mind.
It's a Themistocles.
That's, as a child.
Recently declassified photo.
Okay. Classified.
Ostracisms took place over the course of a century, so numerous contemporary writers transcribed the process, ranging from the height of Athens after the Persian Wars to the early Roman Republic era. So I drew my writings from four major writers: Julius Pollux, Diodorus of Sicily, Philochorus, and Plutarch. As you can see, they all come from different eras, and they each describe a major ostracism. Ostracism was the Greek.
Someone else being ostracized.
That's Aristides. Ostracism was the Greek practice of temporary banishment, usually 10 years from a city, in this case Athens, by popular vote. Every year the city would hold a vote at the agora on whether an ostracism would be taken. And if the people voted that they wanted an ostracism to be carried out, then each citizen would cast their vote on a piece of pottery on who would be ostracized. If a citizen received at least 6,000 votes, he was the winner, and the ostracized would be banished for a period of 10 years. However, they would still be allowed to maintain their properties within the city and be sent incomes from the said properties. Yeah. Voted away.
Voted off the island.
Ostracism, and here's the first source, Philochorus. Ostracism is as follows. The demos take a vote before the 8th Prytany as to whether it seemed best to hold an ostracism. When the response is positive, the agora is fenced off with barricades. 10 entrances were left open, through which they entered according to file, and deposited their pots, keeping face down what they had written. The 9 archons and the bull presided. After they added up the results, whoever received the largest number, and it had not to be less than 6,000, was required to pay the penalty. He had to settle his private affairs within 10 days, and to depart from the city for 10 years. That was later made 5 years. He still received the income from his property, but he could not come nearer than Geristados, the promontory of Euboea. Hyperbolus was the sole undistinguished person to suffer ostracism on account of the degeneracy of his habits, not because he was suspected of aiming at tyranny. After him, the practice was abandoned, which had begun with Cleisthenes was legislating when he expelled the tyrants, so that he might toss out their friends as well. And here's an example of several pieces of pottery that were, as you can see, the one on the far left, it says Aristides, and this is how they voted. You would take a little piece of pottery, carve the name of the person you hated, and throw it at the agora.
You might need several pieces.
No.
No, you got to pick just one. That's the rule. In most cases.
Well, as the first source noted, they kind of barricaded the agora off to try and prevent that sort of thing, though I imagine that could be a problem.
Both sides of it. That way you went either way.
Well, I mean, then your vote would just be cancelled.
Oh.
And my second source, Julius Pollux. However, the whole populace cast its vote on Ostraca in common, and the process is called Ostracphoria, the result Ostracismos. Now, when a certain part of the agora was roped off, it was necessary for an Athenian who wanted to vote to bring to the roped area a potsherd inscribed with the name of the man he wanted to be ostracized. If 6,000 Ostraca turned up for a particular man, he had to go into exile, not because he had been convicted of a crime, but because he was something of a burden to the politia, reproached for his arete rather than censured for evil deed. Arete, then the last sentence, that means it's Greek for moral virtue, but in this case it means the lack of moral virtue or civic virtue. The purpose of ostracism was meant to ensure that the friends of tyrants, or those seeking to be tyrants, or powerful malcontents would be unable to harm the democracy again. Powerful politicians or leaders who were believed to be a threat to the state, or too powerful or innocent to have formal charges brought against them, were neutralized as a threat to the democracy of Athens in this way. Here's a list of the most famous ostracisms. In 471, you'll notice Themistocles.
Are we suggesting that Piglet was ostracized?
Yeah.
That's my
As
favorite.
you can see by the masks over the other spaces,
Yeah.
I assume it was for bringing plague into the city.
Typhoid Piglet.
Swine flu.
Clisthenes, Themistocles. Notice, see, 5 of them are archons. Alcibiades, oh, he was notorious. Thucydides. Alcibiades, he was infamously bad.
Alcibiades, he was the one, it was the mere threat of being ostracized that led him to betray Athens to the Spartans.
Yes.
That's how bad ostracism was, that you would betray your nation just for fear of being ostracized.
So on the slight chance, or was it great? Was it very
Pretty
great?
big chance.
And here's an account of the ostracism of Themistocles. But afterwards those who feared the eminence that Themistocles enjoyed, and others who were envious of his glory, forgot his services to the state, and began to exert themselves to diminish his power and to lower his presumption. First of all, they removed him from Athens, using against him what is called ostracism, an institution which was adopted in Athens after the overthrow of the tyranny of Pisistratus and his sons. And the law is as follows. Each citizen wrote the name of the man who in his opinion had the greatest power to destroy the democracy, and the man who got the largest number of ostraca was obliged to go into exile from his native land for a period of 10 years. The Athenians, it appears, passed such a law not for the purpose of punishing wrongdoing, but in order to lower through exile the presumption of men who had risen too high. Now Themistocles, having been ostracized in the manner we have described, fled as an exile from his native city to Argos. And here's a piece of pottery that has Themistocles' name on it, and it also shows Themistocles' ultimate fate running to the Persians. He had nowhere else to go. Here is an account of the ostracism of Aristides. Aristides therefore had at first the fortune to be beloved for his surname, the Just, but at length was envied, especially when Themistocles, guy was just ostracized, he got this guy ostracized before him, spread a rumor among the people that by determining and judging all matters in private, he had destroyed the courts of justice, and was secretly making way for a monarchy in his own person, without the assistance of guards. Moreover, the spirit of the people, now grown great and confident with their recent victory, naturally entertained feelings of dislike toward all of more than common fame and reputation. Coming together, therefore, and from all parts into the city, they banished Aristides by ostracism, giving their jealousy of his reputation the name of fear of tyranny. For ostracism was not the punishment of any criminal act, but was speciously said to be the mere depression and humiliation of excessive greatness and power, and was in fact a gentle relief and mitigation of envious feelings, which were thus allowed to vent themselves in inflicting no intolerable injury, only a 10 years' banishment, although that does seem like an injury. But after it came to be exercised upon base and villainous fellows, they desisted from it. Hyperbolus, the last person to be ostracized, was the last the cause of Hyperbolus' banishment is said to have been this. Alcibiades and Nicias, men who had been the greatest influence in the city, were of different factions. As the people therefore about to vote for ostracism, and obviously to decree it against one of them, consulting together they contrived the banishment of Hyperbolus. The people being offended by this, as if some contempt or affront was put upon the thing, they left it off and quite abolished it. And here's the ostracism of Aristides. He puts his hood up in shame. Very cute. There's his name on his body. And there's a legend that at the time of the vote for the ostracism, an uneducated farmer went up to Aristides and asked him to put Aristides' name on a piece of pottery because he could not write it. And Aristides, he honestly wrote his name on it because he was honest.
Should have written that guy's name on it. He wouldn't know.
Talk about digging your own grave.
Well, I've often done that.
And the significance of ostracism, it could be seen as an early form of checks and balances within the Athenian government. When a citizen was thought to be exerting negative or too much influence on a city, they could be easily removed and neutralized as a threat to the democracy. A weakness would be that this ritual can be easily subverted by populism and be used to exile statesmen who hadn't wronged Athens and thus rob the state of services of capable leaders.
Also a good way to get rid of people you don't like.
There's a source, and have some questions.
Yes, let's go to those questions.
Did the benefits of ostracism outweigh the costs? Why or why not? Think it was a good idea or a bad idea?
Double-edged sword. I'd say it's a good idea because I think that it was effective in getting rid of political leaders who were gaining too much power and might upset the democratic system. But on the bad side, democratic systems need good leaders to keep the people going and under control. And a lot of those people, like Themistocles, were good at organizing military systems and defenses and all that, and they needed those types of leaders to get things done. And ostracism got rid of it.
I think Herodotus once said that he decried ostracism because it was a deterrent to exceptional people going into public service because they were afraid of ostracism. They would instead go into business or.
Sure. We have this kind of thing today. Many people, at least some people might not run for public office because they don't want to go through. We have our own form of ostracism, and that's all the background checks. They kind of search through your entire life, and they try to find any event that would embarrass you. that may not necessarily have any impact on your being a leader, for example. So I know there are people that avoid or get out of public service, running for office, because we have today a kind of ostracism, and that would be the 24-hour news cycle with TMZ photos.
What rights and benefits did the ostracized maintain?
The value that crop field is
It was usually the wealthy who were ostracized, so they could still support themselves.
Life, liberty,
Yeah, they're not killed. I mean, one of the other options of getting rid of a leader is execute. So I suppose you might say ostracism is better than that option, at least for the person who's being ostracized.
Then you have to walk out of the city and everyone's looking at you. Just kill them.
Well, this is why, Socrates chose suicide rather than ostracism, or rather than punishment.
and he never shut up in that time.
Oh, no, just like me, he's kept going. Until he's dead.
Name one famous ostracized Greek and the reason for their banishment.
Ooh, that sounds like a good test question for the final.
No.
What you think?
No.
I think it sounds like maybe, okay, not fair. Name 3 ostracized. He's right in my testimony. That's good. Nobody can even name one. It should be able to name at least one, right? We talked about it twice today. Yeah. Of course, if you're on the Tinder, even if there's nobody named statistically on the Tinder. Could be. Feel like a pseudonym. All right, thank you. That was a rousing applause. I'm going to assume that was for me walking up, not him walking down. All right, let's go. Let me go through, and I want to say a few things about this, since we do have a little bit of time. And then I will have a whole lot of time to start something else. So I feel very sad for these people who are look at him pointing at her and everything.
Pointing and laughing.
Yes. Oh, you got yours ready? I'm sorry, I didn't see yours was up there. Okay, well, let's do it.
Oh, we got more today.
Well, I thought we had a lot more, but okay, hold on.
I think this is the most presentations we've ever had in one
I
day.
think it is. We may have to continue them next time because I don't know if we see. We got Sarah.
I can't find their classes for next semester outside of the gym.
You can't find them?
Not a.
Well, next semester I'm teaching 2 upper level courses. 2 upper level courses. One is the basically film and history class. The other one is history and archaeology of the ancient Near East.
I talked to my advisor
What?
and substituting this class for Trump.
Why are you teaching that after I'm
What are you
leaving?
teaching?
That's what I'm writing my thesis on.
Oh, what? What do you write your thesis on? Film and history?
No, the ancient Near Eastern archaeology.
Oh,
I need that course.
go.
We only have a few minutes, so I'm gonna not read through all of this.
Do whatever you need to do.
Okay.
We'll continue next week.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Athens. In 440. 75,000 people in the city, between 200,000, 250,000 in the countryside, Attica. And the city actually had an area of roughly, less than a mile squared. This would have been a contemporary of when Sophocles wrote Antigone in 442. The plot basically goes Antigone was sentenced to death, and her lover Haman pleads her case before his father, the king Creon, and then they commit suicide.
Happy.
Yeah.
What, the regular Roman Julian is
Yeah, it's like a Romeo and Juliet of ancient Greece. It was redone later, like a while later, and they were like rescued by Heracles, but that's not this version. And so the oh, this passage is the argument that Haman had with his father Creon. I was thinking we could like read through it, but it's a lot, and it's a lot of slides. Yeah. Basically, Haman goes before his father and says, I honor you and I want your blessing, but don't kill her. And then Creon is at first, like, I'm so happy because my son is honoring me. And then he continues to talk about how Antigone is an evil and corrupt woman and not suitable for his son. But then Haman goes back and says, well, I respect you, but I'm capable of reason. Everyone is capable of reason. And the Thebans, I believe, yes, the Thebans don't have like this consensus. They have this consensus that Antigone should not be sentenced to death, so you shouldn't sentence her to death. And he's essentially warning his father, don't do this because she shouldn't die. So if you kill her, you're kind of sentencing yourself. You're condemning yourself because you're killing someone who shouldn't be killed. Use your reason. Also, everyone is capable of reason, so everyone can contribute something and has an opinion, but people are too afraid of you to speak. So basically, he's just warning his father, like, hey, be careful, because like people aren't going to like that for very much longer, being afraid to speak. And so then Creon says, men of my age are we indeed to be schooled then by men of his? And then Hymen comes back and says, well, my merits are more important than my years. They continue to talk about that. Again, the Theban folk deny that Antigone is an evildoer. I assume that's like witnesses. People like witness something and they have a consensus she is not an evildoer. Yeah, am I to rule this land by other judgment than my own? Creon says, and Haman says, there is no city which belongs to one man. You rule the city, but you don't own it. Basically, Creon takes everything that Haman is saying to be a personal attack, feud with his father, shameless at open feud with thy father. And Haman says, no, I respect you, I love you, father, but you're doing something wrong. And he says, nay, I see thee offending against justice. And again, he's pleading for his, effectively, he's pleading for his father's life. He says, Creon says, O dastard nature, yielding place to woman. Haman says, thou wilt never find me yield to baseness. Creon, all thy words at least plead for that girl. And Haman says, and for thee, and for me, and for the gods below. Don't condemn yourself for killing an innocent woman. So it was an interesting read. And I think so. Yeah, so Creon again says, you're not going to marry her. She's going to pay the penalty of death. And this is good. Then she must die, Haman says, and in death destroy another. He's talking about his father. So Creon finally says she's going to die because I say so, and you are like, I'm gonna punish you too. You're gonna watch her. She's gonna die right next to you. And Haman says, no, if you kill her, you lose me. So it's a really interesting dynamic between father and son, because the traditional idea is like sons should be devoted to their fathers, and Haman is, but he's also thinking through what his father's doing and seeing that it's not reasonable. That yes, it's dastardly, and it's wrong, and he's pleading for his father to save his father from as well the gods below, as Haman said. So that is Antigone, or at least that conversation, which is kind of a pivotal point, a discussion of thought in the play.
Well, we see the ideas here that we basically steal from the ancients, right? Shakespeare and others, and Survivor,
Yeah.
so forth. Now, let's remember that next week we meet on Wednesday, so we'll have at least one presentation on Wednesday. We'll see who else is in the mix. Let me remind you, I know people are signing up for classes, so in the fall, I know my stuff isn't listed, I don't know why. I guess to make sure I don't get the requisite number of people in them. But Ancient Near East, History and Archaeology, and the history through popular culture, where we're going to focus on film and novel. All right, have a good weekend.